In this series of videos, I'm giving you my top 5 tips when working with financial professionals. And we've made it to my final tip, being understand what your financial professional can and can't do. One of the common messages I got during the 2008 global financial crisis was that Australian investors who had financial planners didn't fully understand their planner's role. I was often told that people expected their financial planner to have come up with a strategy for them to have avoided losing money. Isn't that what having a planner is all about? The Australian Securities and Investment Commission, or ASIC, is responsible for setting the rules and conditions to hold an Australian financial services licence, which means planners are obliged to meet the requirements of those laws. What this generally means in practice is that advisors are limited in their authority to make suitable recommendations about your investments without your input, and they can't move your money around without your permission. The Money Smart website recommends you ask some questions of your planner so that both of you have a mutual understanding when you're initially setting up your plan. It's good to ask about the scope of your advice, what it does and doesn't cover, if and when your advisor will need your permission to make changes, and how much authority you want to give them to manage your investments and access your money. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer to these questions, there's just different implications. That's why it's important to have this worked out from the beginning, so you're both coming from the same understanding of the situation and can reduce the possibilities of misunderstandings down the line. A lot of this conversation will then be formalised by your statement of advice, which is another good reason to read it thoroughly. It explains what your advice covers, what it doesn't, and how your investments will be managed. Before you sign the statement of advice, you can ask your advisor to explain anything you don't understand. Money Smart reminds us that you should always feel comfortable with your advisor and the advice they provide.